One of the great times of the year when CareerBuilder.com releases its annual list of job interview quirks and missteps committed by candidates last year. The employment website polled 2,600 human resources professionals and hiring managers last year, whittled the interview weirdness down to 10 winners. Communications expert, author of the book, The Old School Advantage, Jim Whidden. How are you?
I'm doing great, Stevie J. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm just entertained here by some of the 10 winners. One guy called his wife to ask if the starting salary was enough before continuing the interview. I wonder what she said.
Well, evidently it was okay. They continued the interview, but, this just violates one of the first rules. You never talk about money in the first interview unless the interviewer brings it up first. So obviously he did not get that memo.
Brought childhood toys to the interview?
This one I might give somebody a break depending on how creative the position is they're, trying to get. Maybe they brought those in to do a demonstration or tell a story. Outside of that, I would say that's a faux pas.
Bragged about being in the local newspaper for alleged theft?
I would put this one under the heading of any publicity is good publicity. I think that's probably what they were following.
Oh, man. Ate a pizza he brought with him?
Well, maybe it was a pizza delivery job. I'm not sure. But the one that really cracked me up is the one under that one. Ate crumbs off the table. So is that some kind of symbolic gesture?
Wow.
Indicating the level of compensation they would be willing to accept? I'm not sure.
Asked where the nearest bar was located.
Now, I'll bet that one happens more often than you would think after some bad interviews.
I don't know, Jim. What do you do? How do you advise? I mean, you hate to say some people are unhireable, but maybe some people are unhireable.
There are such simple answers to this, Stevie. I mean, let's think about what you're wearing. Think red, white, and blue. If you're wearing dark blue, navy blue, a red tie or scarf, and a white or light blue shirt or blouse, you're golden. Now you don't have to worry about being, distracting the interviewer because you want to make a fashion statement. And that allows them for your visage to come out, your personality, what you know, your character. You can tell stories. And they're not constantly thinking about the orange polka dot tie that you've got on. So that's number one.
Okay.
And then never arrive late. I tell my kids, if you're not early, you're late.
Yeah.
And leave the electronic devices either in the car, the purse, or the pocket.
Yeah.
That will indicate, even in the waiting room, that you're serious and focused on what you're about to do.
Jim, there are a lot of people with pierced body parts and tattoos. What do you suggest regarding those?
Well, cover them if you can, just to make sure. And I realize sometimes that's not possible when you see some of the tattoos today. But definitely, it's probably best to not, again, make those an object of attention. Another one people don't think of, Steve J., is never wear heavy cologne or perfume because you might have someone that's allergic, and that'll be a turnoff right from the start.
But if you do have some piercings, certainly don't wear your tongue ring, right?
That would probably be good advice, yes.
I don't know. Now, do you actually help people on learning how to interview?
We do. In my book, The Old School Advantage, thank you for mentioning it, Chapter 6 is all about interviewing. And in there we have the 10 most asked questions in interviews, across the board. We give you the right answer and the wrong answer just as examples. But probably the most important part of that chapter is the reverse interview. And those, at the end of most interviews, they'll say, well, thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is say, no, thank you, I've enjoyed it. You need to ask them some questions. You've built rapport over 15, 20, 30 minutes talking to them. It's okay to ask the interviewer, I'm curious, Bob, what brought you to ABC Company? Or why have you stayed so long? I mean, this is going to give you great insight as a candidate. at that point. And we've got 14 reverse interview questions that you can ask that can give you some insight, and they'll be impressed by those questions. People know who you are by the quality of your questions and the content of your questions, much more so than the content of your statements. And a lot of people don't realize that.
I mean, they say you only get one shot to make a first impression. That's really true, isn't it?
Absolutely. Mom and Grandmom told you that a long time ago, and they were right.
Yeah. Well, okay, your book, The Old School Advantage, is that available on Amazon?
It is, yeah. Amazon, bookstores. You can go to our website, theoldschooladvantage.com, get it there, and we'd love for folks to do so.
Yeah, you bet, Jim. Hey, nice chatting with you. Thanks so much for what you're doing to help people.
My pleasure. Have a great week.
You too. Communications expert, author of theoldschooladvantage.com is where you can find Jim Whiddon, Whiddon. But yeah, don't bring a pizza to your job interview and eat crumbs off the table. Oh, Mommy, I don't know.
You know, he mentioned, though, that you shouldn't bring a, phone or something like that into the interview and not even look at it in the waiting room. But when I was interviewing an intern recently, they said I want to check my notes that are on my phone.
I think that's probably fine if you tell them that I've got some questions about this company. It'd probably be more impressive to have them memorized, but it's fine. I think that's probably okay. But usually, I would agree with Jim. Anything electronic in your hand is probably a bad thing. If you say, "Hey, I've got a few things I wanted to make sure I ask about this wonderful company you work for. Is it okay if I look at these on my phone?" Mm-hmm. I think that'd probably be fine. But if you could do that, looking at them in the eye without looking down to anything, just as a spontaneous thing, I think it'd be more impressive.
Yeah.
All right, ESPN 93.5, a break, then our sports headlines coming up next.